Thank you so much for being with us. Professor, Boris Johnson says he's looking for political consensus in the next step for fighting COVID-19. How do you interpret this?
Well, the truth is that the UK government does need to achieve a degree of political consensus, because you have to bear in mind that most of the legal basis for the lockdown measures, for example, actually do not lie simply with the UK Parliament, but rather that in the devolved parts of the UK, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, the legal basis for the lockdown actually lies with the devolved administrations. And the health service and the management of the health service also lies with the devolved administrations. Now, we therefore have to bear in mind that although we have a Conservative administration in London responsible for England, we have a Labour administration in Wales, we have an SNP administration in Scotland, and we have a multi-party administration led by both the Sinn Féin and the Democratic Unionists in Northern Ireland. So the truth is, throughout the whole of this process, the United Kingdom government certainly has had to try to keep the devolved administrations on board, and that inevitably means also having to develop a degree of political consensus. So in truth, in part, it's stating the obvious. It may perhaps not be so obvious to an international audience, not aware of the subtleties of the lockdown inside the UK, but the truth is, in practice, the Prime Minister does need to operate in step with people who might be his opponents in London, but actually are governing in collaboration with the UK government across the UK as a whole.
Now, Prime Minister Boris Johnson essentially did a U-turn on social distancing, at first saying it wasn't necessary, then bringing the country to a standstill. What do you make of this political messaging during a public health crisis, and how has it been received by devolved governments?
Well, the truth is that the target for the messaging primarily was the UK public. And the truth is, it looks as though the UK public, for the most part, seem to have kept to the measures. Now, they are measures, by the way, which have never been as tough as those, for example, in Italy and Spain. So Italy and Spain, for example, are now beginning to allow for people to undertake exercise, letting their children out, etc. We've never had, the lockdown here has never been that tight. We've kept the shops open. We've allowed people to exercise for once a day. For the most part, parks have been kept open. So to that extent, at least, the UK lockdown has never been quite so tight, and that perhaps has made it possible to take people with it. And the UK government, together with the devolved administrations, for the most part have kept people with it. There clearly is now some pressure going on within industry, saying, look, when are we going to get the chance to get back into business? But certainly my reading of the opinion polling evidence is that basically the public are willing to maintain the lockdown as it has been practiced in the UK, more or less as it is, at least for a while, and certainly seem to be saying that indeed, yes, well, when it is begun to be relaxed, it will need to be relaxed on a gradual basis and on a basis whereby the measures are taken to ensure that as much as possible, everybody still indeed does keep their distance from each other. So I think the truth is, for the most part, so far at least, the UK government has been highly successful in taking the public with it on a lockdown that perhaps was not as tough as it could have been, and as yet at least still has to get the numbers down to the kind of level that is actually going to be required before you can think about loosening it significantly thereafter.
All right, Sir John Curtice, that's all we have time for. Thank you